final visualization for Dashboard 4, the 100% stacked bar chart. Now in this video, we'll create our bar chart, and then in the next video, we'll cluster our bars by decade. Now before we start building, take a look at what the stacked bar chart accomplishes that the line chart doesn't. A quick glance at the line chart and those 1960s and 1970s spikes jump right out, and we see there are way more female Kellys born in the 20th century than male. However, it's not easy to see that Kelly was predominantly a male name throughout the first half of the century. Even through the 1950s, the name was split pretty evenly. That's where the 100% stacked bar chart helps round out the history of the name. By looking at a percentage split instead of just the number split, we can see another side to this story. Make sense? Good. Okay, let's build this stacked bar chart. We'll get started by just looking at the 50s to make this a bit easier to see what's going on. So let's drag the year to the filters card and select 1950 to 1959. Great. And let's show our name filter again so that we can narrow this visualization down to just Kelly. Now a stacked bar chart will start off the same way a normal bar chart would. We'll drag year to rows and change the data pill from continuous to discrete so that we can get 10 discrete categories, 1 bar per year, instead of that continuous spectrum. Then we'll drag occurrences to columns and we'll get a bar summing up all the Social Security cards for Kelly for that year. Okay, so we can see Kelly's popularity is taking off. If we drag sex to rows and split out each year into 2 bars, we can see that up until 1957, there were more male cards than female. Then 1958 hits and the female total more than doubles. If we look back at our line graph, that tipping point is there, but it doesn't really jump out. But in a stacked bar chart, it will. Here's what we'll do. Drag the sex variable off of rows and drop it on color instead. But since the number of cards keeps changing for each year, it's difficult to compare the percentage split. And I don't know about you, but I'm not great at glancing at raw numbers and calculating a percentage off the top of my head. What we want instead is for each bar to represent 100% of the cards for that year, and for color on each bar to correspond to the percent of the total cards that were female and the percent that were male. This is another table calculation problem. We'll come up to our occurrences pill, click the drop-down menu, and go to Quick Table Calculation, and then select percent of total. Take a look. Some things are working, some things aren't. What's off? Our x-axis has changed to a percent, but it only goes to 30% instead of 100. We need to adjust how our percent of total is calculated. Okay, come back to the occurrences drop-down menu and hover over Compute Using. That check next to Table Down lets us know that Tableau is calculating the percent based on the entire table. When we hover over a mark, like the female 1959 mark, we're getting a percent calculated in the context of every other mark in this visualization. The 1959 female Social Security cards for Kelly account for 22% of all the Social Security cards in the visualization's full 10-year span. When we swap out table down for table across, our table calculation changes its view from a vertical one to a horizontal granularity that calculates each year's percentage individually. Now, we'll wrap it up by adding a white border in between the color changes. Just click Color, Border, and select White. And now that tipping point of 1957 and its 50-50 split jumps right out. Excellent. Okay, on to the next video. We'll swap out our year variable on the x-axis for decade.